Zikitsa Healthcare keeps its promise, and once more we have another webinar for you. This time on a very interesting topic, finding success through emotional intelligence. Zikitsa, as you are aware, is one of the largest and one of the finest companies in emergency response. Zikitsa started about 15 years ago, and these five founders, young entrepreneurs at that time, quit comfortable jobs because they realized the need for ambulances in our country, and then launched this company in 2005. Today, Zikitsa has a fleet of 3,500 plus ambulances across the country. Zikitsa has forayed into corporate wellness, and here we give fixed ambulances to corporates who then have them stationed at their premises for an early evacuation of a patient in emergency. We also have another product which is gaining a lot of popularity these days, especially during COVID times, which is ambulance on call. So with a small subscription, a corporate can ensure that each of its employees can call for an ambulance anytime across the country. This ambulance will arrive within 30 minutes. Yet another product which is gaining popularity is telehealth. We have about a dozen doctors stationed at the command center in Mumbai. They take calls from employees, so an organization can sponsor its employees on a monthly basis, and the employees can talk to our doctors at any time, 24/7. We manage medical rooms in large corporates. We send doctors and nurses, and we manage these medical rooms end to end. And now we also organize a host of webinar sessions on different topics in wellness. There's also the health checkup that we do. We undertake that in partnership with another company. So for all your healthcare needs, do get in touch with Zikitsa. Today's speaker is Seema Srivastava. She has over 2 decades of experience in learning and organization development. Seema has touched 83,000 lives. She has headed learning and organization development from Mellon Financial Services, Deloitte AERS, and Birla Sun Life. She then went on to found Tathastu Consulting, where she now consults on a wing-to-wing of learning and organization development. Her forte is leadership capabilities building, learning and development capabilities building, performance skills, and assessment centers. Seema has a huge list of certifications. In fact, it's such a long list, but I will name a few important ones, which are emotional intelligence, ESAP, which is emotional skills assessment process and tools, neuro-linguistic programming, DISC Thomas profiling, coaching, counseling, etc. An extremely passionate person about her work. She believes in working hard and partying hard. So let's hope we party after this webinar. So I give you, ladies and gentlemen, Seema Srivastava.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Am I audible? Can you
Yes, very audible.
you all hear me? Atul, if you could represent, perfect. All right, so the way we would take it ahead is I'm going to give you some bit on emotional intelligence, and at the end of it, we'll have a Q&A round. So in the due course, if you have any questions, would request you to make a note of it, and let's address it at the end of it. Okay, so let's start. Emotional intelligence. Do you think it's important? If it is, why it's important? Take a minute and you could type in your viewpoints in the chat box. To control our emotions in right away, self-awareness and social awareness, people should be able to manage their emotions, especially in public. All right, so it means that we deal with the human, and human comes with emotions. And to deal with emotions, we really need something more than IQ, more than the basic intelligence. Like they say, people may forget what you said or did, but they would never forget how you made them feel. So as a leader, it's really important that you make your people feel good about working with you, so that they are engaged with you, engaged with the organization. What do you think of this quote? You can't change what's going on around until you start changing what's going on within you. Am I not audible? Hello? Can
You're
you hear
audible,
me?
Seema. You're audible. You're audible.
Oh,
Please go ahead.
there are some chats. There are some chats that said I'm not audible. So Raman, you'll have to check at your end. Yeah. So
Yeah, people who are having an issue with the audio may have to log off and log in again. Sometimes that happens.
all right. So it really means that we are in our control, and to control the outside world, since we can only control ourselves, we need to change ourselves. Okay. To change our behavior, change our thought process, change our reaction to responses. And a leader experiences a lot of things in his life. This is just one of the things that you may have experienced. Let's look at the situation. Your team member has messed up a monthly report which was supposed to go for the board of directors meeting. How would you react to it? Please use the chat window. How would you react in this situation? Really pissed off? Yes. PK Sharma, it depends. Chaotic and angry, same like the picture. Very much. Okay. Now, there's a quote by sums up emotional intelligence, which is getting angry is easy. Everybody could get angry, but getting angry with the right person at the right time for the right purpose in a right way is actually an art. That's not easy. And that's why EI plays a great role, an important role for us to understand how is it that we can express ourselves and not really our anger when we are at the emotional peak. We will come back to the situation once we have had some inputs on emotional intelligence. Let's look at this. When you think of perfect leader, what comes to your mind? A perfect boss, a good boss that you may have had, what comes to your mind? Collaborative, okay. Someone who's approachable. So there's collaborative, approachable, balanced, coach, management skills, calm, intelligent, empathetic, lead by example. All right, so look at this. Nobody here mentioned somebody who has churned out numbers or has generated revenues. Whatever you mentioned is all about behavior, something that you could connect with, something that your leader could connect with you on. Okay, and these are all the behavior of emotional intelligence. Before we move on to understand what emotional intelligence is, let's try and understand what happens inside us in our brain when our emotional triggers are pressed, when the emotional buttons are triggered or pressed. Now, I'm going to make it, I'll try to explain it in a very layman language. Look at this brain, try and understand we have two types of brains. One, which is a feeling brain, and the other one, which is a thinking brain. The feeling brain is here, that's the amygdala. That is called as feeling brain, which processes the emotions. And cortex, your prefrontal cortex, is your thinking brain. Okay. And then there is thalamus. Now, the responsibility of thalamus is to relay the sensory inputs to further parts of the brain. The regular process that our brain follows is there are sensory inputs, thalamus takes that, it relays it to the cortex, and from the cortex, it's passed on to amygdala, which is your feeling brain. So from the thinking thalamus, which is relaying the sensory inputs, to your thinking brain, which is cortex. From thinking brain, it goes to the feeling brain. And since it's a well thought out process, we tend to respond better. We don't burst out there. Now what happens is, whenever you have a threat situation, your emotional brain, which is your amygdala, is very good at sensing the threats or potential threat, even perceived threat. So whenever you have a situation which is threatful to you, your amygdala becomes active. Thalamus follows a shortcut. Do you see this circuit here? So in a threatful situation, the thalamus follows the shortcut and sends a message to your amygdala, which is your feeling brain. The moment amygdala becomes active, that means the blood and oxygen which was passing to your thinking brain all these while, a part of it has been supplied to amygdala, and that's why it's gone active. When amygdala becomes active, it hijacks the whole brain, and the blood and oxygen to your cortex, the supply of blood and oxygen is disturbed, which means your thinking ability is disturbed. So you're not able to think at the same level which you were before the amygdala became active. All right, so that's the whole process. Now, when amygdala is active, you tend to react to situation. Okay. This is what is known as emotional hijack. Okay, wherein your amygdala hijacks the complete brain, hijacks the thinking brain as well. Now, what we need to do is, and then there are certain physiological signs like high heart rate, heartbeats, increased blood pressure, muscle pull, and so. Now, to take care of this situation, we need to ensure that the blood and oxygen which is passed to amygdala goes back to your thinking brain. To do that, there is something known as name it to tame it. In EI language, we call it name it to tame it, which means nothing but labeling the emotion. Take a pause and try and think, what is it that you are feeling now? When you're doing that, the blood and oxygen which was going to amygdala, since you're thinking to identify the feeling, thinking to identify the emotion that you're undergoing, the blood and oxygen is slowly going back to cortex. And now you would be able to think at the same level and would be able to respond versus react to situation. All right. I'll tell you something. There was a research done in University of California, where people who were scared of spiders, okay, they were exposed to a lot of spiders, and a group of people were told to label the emotions. So while they are experiencing that, they were asked to name the emotion, label the emotion. And in that research, it was found that people, the group which labeled the emotion, experienced less physiological signs of anxiety than the group which did not. There was another study done using fMRI, wherein the brain of the people who were labeling the emotions were studied. They found out while the brain was busy labeling the emotion, while they were thinking of the emotion, the blood and oxygen slowly is moving back to the cortex. Okay. And that is name it to tame it, or labeling the emotion. Okay. So here is a very basic, some background before we look at emotional intelligence. Okay. But the moment you name it, you start labeling the emotion, you get your thinking capabilities back at the same level. So you'll be able to think, how do I need to respond now? What do you mean by emotional intelligence? What's your understanding of emotional intelligence? Please use the chat box. Okay. I'm sorry, Naresh, I did not see that. Is it better now? Okay, I hope it's better. Okay, great. So what do you mean, what do you understand by emotional intelligence? If you could use the chat box and let me know. Controlling your emotions wisely, understanding yourself and understand others' feelings, to be aware of our emotions and regulate them. Regulate them. Understanding, to be able to express the right emotion. Very well. So let's see what. So you all are very close to what Daniel Goleman, who is known as the father of emotional intelligence, he said. That's how Daniel Goleman defined emotional intelligence. By the way, he was not the first one to coin this term. It was coined by Peter Salovey and John Mayer in 1990. And Daniel Goleman in 1995 wrote a book with the same name. What he did in the corporate world. And that's how today in it means the emotional intelligence in symptoms the relationships. Now I won't be able to to manage the relationship until I am.
Sorry, Seema, there's something wrong with the network. You're freezing again and again.
Am I?
Yeah, so actually you'll have to repeat everything you said in the last 2-3 minutes.
Okay. Second, let me try like this. Is it better?
Yes, it's better, but the network is just a bit shaky.
Sure. So you was I clear till the research, the University of California research?
Yes.
And the fMRI?
Yeah, that is the last we heard. Yeah.
All right. So let's hear. So I said, let's look at the definition that the father of emotional intelligence gave. All right. And I also wanted to know that he was not the first one to coin the term. It was done by Peter Salovey and John Mayer in 1990. And in 1995, Daniel Goleman wrote a book with the same name, Emotional Intelligence. The unique thing that he did was he looked at emotions and the application of it in business, in a business scenario, in the corporate world, in a professional world, and also in children. So that's how he looked at the application of emotional intelligence, and that's what makes it unique. Now, if you look at this definition, it actually means, in a very simple term, it means managing self and managing relationship. Now, to manage self, I first need to be aware of self. So that's where self-awareness comes in. And to manage relationship, I first need to be aware of the people that I'm trying to establish or build relationship with. So that's where social awareness comes in. So if you look at it, there are 4 clusters basis this definition. First one is self-awareness, which is being aware of what am I feeling, why am I feeling it. Self-management, to be able to manage my distressing emotions in a way that it does not cripple me, it does not come in the way of what I am doing, and also marshal my good emotions so that both put together help me in whatever I'm trying to achieve. It also means social awareness, which is empathy, trying to look at things from others' perspective, trying to look at what is it that others are feeling, what others are experiencing in terms of emotions. Okay, and the big term there is in social awareness is empathy, which is putting yourself into the shoes of the other person, trying to look at things from the other's perspective, and then putting all these together to establish and build relationship with people so that you're able to deal with them in harmony and are able to accomplish whatever goals you have come together for. Okay. Without self-awareness, managing self is really difficult. In fact, there has been study which shows if you are aware of self, managing self, the chances are 50-50. And with self-awareness, social awareness also becomes easy. Okay. I see some participants have raised hand. Should we take this up now, or?
No, Seema, we'll take all the questions later. My request is all the participants put the questions in the Q&A box in the webinar window, because we will go ahead with the presentation. In the last 20 minutes, we'll take the Q&A.
All right. Okay, sure. And I hope I'm audible to everybody now. Is that clear, Shweta?
Yeah, very, very clear. Very clear.
Okay. So without awareness of self, managing self becomes a little difficult. Let me share a story of Edward. Okay. So Edward was a very good professional, has had very good knowledge about the industry, had good knowledge about the business that he was working for, good process knowledge, good technical skills. And he was always ready to help others with his process knowledge, with the technical difficulties that they would have. So ready to share knowledge. Okay. The only thing was there were times when he was lose out on his temper and civility. Okay. Whenever the deliverables were not up to his expectations, whenever his team did not deliver as per the timelines or as per the expected quality level. So that's when he used to lose out on his temper and civility. But he was not aware. He thought, I am good at everything, good at the business knowledge, good at technical skills. I help my team members. They may not have any complaints about it. He was not aware until he brought up the topic of his promotion with his seniors. Now, his seniors, when he spoke about his promotion, his seniors told him that the team members and people around call him names. They call him cynical, etc. And he's surprised. Okay, so his seniors told him, why don't you start observing your own behavior? Why don't you start observing yourself? When is it that you are getting at the emotional peak? When is it that you are bursting out? And see how you could work upon it. Edward started observing himself. In fact, he maintained a journal wherein he would write when, what, and why is he experiencing, which is in terms of emotions and feelings. He started talking to his team members openly, encouraged two-way communication, sought feedback from them so that he is aware of himself from others' perspective also. Okay, so he did everything which you would do in a Johari window. Okay, he tried to open up his arena, started sharing about himself, started observing his own emotions. What is he experiencing? Why is he experiencing? When is he experiencing? Maintained a journal to keep a track of it, sought feedback from people so that his blind spots are identified to him and his arena kind of opens up. And then he started working on that information that he could gather to be able to communicate with his team members and build relationships with people. Okay. Now, Edward was lucky to get a second chance, and he was lucky to have leaders who actually told him what was wrong and asked him to work on it, and then they would further take action on it. However, not everybody is lucky, and there are organizations who have paid price for incivility. Let me share with you what is the price that the organizations have paid for the incivility of the seniors. And this is basis HBR report. There are organizations where people who exposed to incivility, who were the recipient of the incivilized behavior, where they were exposed to the outburst of the seniors, 48% intentionally decreased their work effort, 47% decreased the time spent at work, 78% reduced their commitment to the organization, 12% quit the job, and this is dangerous. 25% admitted to taking their frustration out on customers. Can we afford that? Imagine if this happens to your organization. Are you ready to take that risk? I don't think so. We all are ready to take that risk. So it's important that before we reach to that level, manage our own self, and to manage our own self, be aware of self. Let's look at the competencies that goes into the 4 clusters of emotional intelligence. Self-awareness, it's about being aware of own self. And this is, you need to be really observant, and when you're being observant, you need to be very genuine there. Okay, look at the strengths that you have. When we talk about self-awareness, it also means a leader need to know what his strengths are, what his weaknesses are. Leader is not afraid of failure because he's aware of his strengths and weaknesses. He is aware of his strengths so that he can capitalize on the strength while he can build on the skills that he needs to. Okay, he's aware of the emotional outbursts that he has. He needs to be aware of the emotions that he's experiencing. What are the typical emotional triggers that he has? Is there a pattern? You need to observe that also. Is there a pattern that you follow where your emotions are triggered? So those are things that goes in self-awareness. To be aware, you need to do all that. You need to be self-observant. One thing that you could also do is, if you can, take up the inventory assessment of EI to know where do you stand as emotions are concerned or reacting to emotions are concerned. In self-management, it's about self-control. Remember, we discussed about labeling the emotions, naming it to tame it. That's about self-control. I would like to mention our Dadi Nani. If you remember, they used to tell us whenever you have these emotions bottling up, or you are at a stage where it's like emotional peak, try counting 1 to 10, or have a glass of water, or start taking deep breath. Now, there's a science behind it, and the science is neuroscience. We saw in the picture of amygdala that there are certain physiological effects of amygdala going high, and that's high heartbeat, muscle pull, and so forth. To calm those down, to ensure that amygdala goes down, you're taking that many moments away when you're counting, so that your cortex, your thinking brain, becomes active. So yeah, so there's a science behind that, which is neuroscience. So that's what is self-control, when you start labeling your emotion. Okay, and in awareness, you need to try and observe what is it that you're experiencing, what led to that emotion, why are you experiencing it. To manage yourself, you need to be adaptable. Okay, adaptable in terms of identifying the emotion and then working upon it, consciously being able to control and monitor your emotions, and also look at what is it that you are trying to achieve. Look at whatever I am going to do now. How is this, whether I'm going to outburst the emotion or I would control it, express just the message and not really the emotion? How would this impact the outcome? How would this impact what I'm trying to do? And always have a very optimistic approach towards this. In social awareness, it's about one keyword is empathy. You need to look at things from others' perspective. You need to put yourself into the other's shoes. Let's connect it to Edward's case. When he opened up the communication, two-way communication, he was able to empathize. He was able to understand from me people, why is it that they're not able to deliver to the expected level? Why is it that they're not able to deliver to the expected or committed timeline? So it's very important that you empathize and look at things from others' perspective. It tells you a lot about other people, because these are the people that you need to build relationship with for accomplishing the common goals. Look at organizational effectiveness. Talk about your vision, mission, goals. Many a times in fact, most of the time, we talk about vision, mission, goals in terms of numbers and timelines. Very rarely have I seen leaders talking about the feelings part of it. So what do you feel about the vision of the organization? What do you feel about the mission of the organization? What do you feel about the goals that we have organization, priorities of the organization? For that matter, what do you feel about the organization itself, about the department? All right. So when you start collecting or having communication around these areas, you get more and more information about the people that you're working with. And when you get more information about people that you're working with, building relationship with those people becomes easier. Now let's look at the competencies that goes into relationship building, which is relationship management with the people that you work with. So there's influencing, there's take conflict situation as an opportunity. So there's conflict management, inspire people, coach and mentor them, enhance and promote teamwork. Okay. Now, if you look at relationship management, there are certain competencies. There's one critical, very critical competency, very critical skill that would help us build stronger relationship. It takes input from all the 4 clusters, however, helps a lot in relationship management, and that is communication. There's one particular style of communication that we encourage leaders or people who want to be emotionally intelligent to follow, and that is assertive communication. Now, what is an assertive communication? Take a minute and put your inputs in the chat box, please. What do we understand by assertive communication? Honest and open communication, okay, clear and precise, very much. Firm, not arrogant, I like that, okay. So assertive communication is putting it all together for you. It means expressing what you want in clear, precise terms with reasonings and data points, without being arrogant, being firm and communicating that. So there are a style of assertive communication. Let's look at that. Use I statements, which is talk about what is it you think, you feel, you want. Start with I. That is the ownership of the communication, ownership of the conversation. Name the incident, which is what led to the emotion, and be very specific. We are going to take this with an example to make it even more clear. Name the emotion. What is it that you're feeling? What emotion are you experiencing? And state, how would you want things to be different? What would you want to see? What would you want to like to happen? Use facts. Okay, use facts that you have seen. And here, one point which is very critical, look at the behavior, talk about the behavior, don't pinpoint the person. Okay, so it all, if I could put it in terms of, if I could summarize this assertive communication style, it all comes to 4 parts of a statement, which is when you, which is describe the episode, describe the incident, what happened, okay? When something happened, I feel or I felt, this is where you're talking about your emotion, your feelings, because you're giving more inputs on what could be the impact of that on you or on the other person, more on that. And then the fourth part, which is next time, could you please, which is what is it that you would want to see happen now? How do you want things to be different? That's the fourth statement. Now, for this, let's say you're and or to your messages.
Seema, sorry, you're again, your network is again, not right. Is it possible for you to change your network or something? Because you're freezing again and again.
Hello, could you hear me?
You are freezing again and again, Seema. So is it possible for you to change your network, or is that the only one you have?
That I have, I can one second. So what is it that you missed out on? Where did I freeze? Was it on the assertive communication, assertive style?
No, this one. There are four simple. This slide.
Okay, all right. Okay, so I'll repeat that for you. So if I could summarize the assertive communication, the style of assertion, it would be in four parts of a statement. When you, which is what did the other person do, describe the event, describe the incident, describe the episode. I feel, which is, so when you, what happened, describe the episode. I feel, this is where you're talking about your emotion, your feelings, and nobody can question you on that because these are your feelings. You are feeling. It's only you can convey how you're feeling. Because give some more inputs on that. How will that emotion affect you, or it may affect the other person, or more inputs on the emotion. Next time, which is the fourth part of the I statement, assertive communication, what would you want to see? How would you want things to be different? Okay. Now let's take an example here. For example, let's say your spouse has been coming late from work. Not this time, but pre-corona, when your spouses used to go to office. Let's assume that your spouse has been coming late, or maybe one fine day he came at around 11:30 p.m. instead of the regular 7 p.m. And he's not been responding to your calls. He's not been replying or calling you back or even messaging back. So there's no answer to your messages, no answer to your calls, no call back also. And you are obviously very angry. Okay. Now, first thing that you should do is awareness about what you're feeling. So the moment spouse comes in, open the door. I'll tell you a non-emotional intelligent reaction to it. When your amygdala is high, you're like, why did you come in late? I've been calling you since such a long time. I have so many calls. Why didn't you check your missed calls? There's so many messages. You don't even remember to call back. You don't even reply to my messages. What's happening here? Okay. Now, one tricky thing about emotion is people mirror emotions. So if there's an outburst from you, the person who's just come in from the office, which is pretty late, so he or she may be tired, would mirror the same emotion back to you. So there are mirror neurons in our brain. So whatever he's experiencing, he may mirror the same emotion back to you. And then it would reach to a level which you certainly did not expect or don't even desire. Okay. So how you should, as an emotionally intelligent person, respond to the situation. So let's say the person walks in, he comes in at 11:30 p.m. instead of the regular 7 p.m. First thing, remember, to manage, you need to be aware. So your amygdala is high. Get your brain busy in identifying the emotion, in labeling the emotion. What is it that I am experiencing? What is the emotion? Am I angry? Am I really angry? And it's very important to label the correct emotion. Am I really angry? Think more and you would get to the right emotion. Or maybe I'm worried. So you get the emotion that I'm actually worried. I'm actually afraid. Not really angry, but afraid. So your cortex, your thinking brain has gone active and your amygdala is quiet. So now you obviously give him some water, give him or her some water and look at the right time. Remember, getting angry with the right person at the right time for the right purpose in a right way by Aristotle. So give him some water, let him relax, and then you frame your communication in an assertive way with these 4 parts of statement. Very simple parts. So it's like this. When you came in at 11:30 p.m. instead of the regular 7 p.m. and you did not respond to my calls or call me back or message me back or reply to my messages. So this is first part, what happened when you. I felt afraid, worried. So I was afraid because you identified that as an emotion. I was afraid, which is the second part, you're feeling that something untoward must have happened because, wherein you're giving more inputs. Because when you do not call up, when you do not, there's no message, there's no touch point with you, I get worried that something bad would have happened. That's the third part. And then how would you want it to be next time? So going forward, I request you, or may I request you, to at least drop in a message letting me know what time would you be home, or just spend a couple of seconds and call me up. 4 simple parts. When you came in at 11:30 instead of 7 p.m. or if it's a regular behavior, when you come at 11:30 p.m. instead of regular 7 p.m., I feel worried, I feel afraid because when you don't call me up or there are no messages from you, I think I am afraid, I am worried that something untoward or something bad would have happened. Next time, could I request you to just drop in a message letting me know what time would you be home? So I am rest assured, at least till that time. Simple. You are actually communicating what you are feeling. So you're not really communicating the emotion, but you're communicating your feeling in words. So you're letting the person know what happened, what kind of feelings you have experienced, why have you experienced, and what is it that the person can do next time to make you feel better. Now, when you communicate this way, the chances are higher that the other person or the other party would work on it. Okay. With that, let's go back to the first situation that we had, the first scenario that we looked at. Your team member has messed up a monthly report, which was supposed to go for the BOD, Board of Directors meeting. How would you now respond to it? By using whatever we have discussed, which is label the emotion. Okay. Try and understand what exactly are you feeling. Use assertive communication, the 4 parts of assertive communication. Could you use your chat? Could you use your chat window and mention that? Of course, Raghu Raman, like any other skill, we are human beings are a creature of habits, right? So whatever skill we take, we can't become an expert at the very first instance. We really have to practice it till the time it becomes a habit, and then it becomes your nature. So I agree with you, Raghuraman. It is, you need to practice it very much. You need to practice. Okay, so you will ask what happened to the team member. Yes, very good point. Regular reviews would yield good results, and that's also one of the characteristics of an emotionally intelligent leader. Yeah. Okay, so let me phrase this on the assertive style. So it would be, first, I need to identify the emotion that I'm experiencing. What is it that I'm experiencing? Maybe I am worried because there's a board of directors meeting, the report has been incorrect, and there's no time to work on the report. Okay. So one, I have already, I'm aware about what I'm experiencing, which is I am worried about it, and I've taken care of my amygdala, which is the emotional brain. When I started thinking about what emotion am I experiencing, so I'm worried. Second, what led to it? The incorrect report. Third, there's no time to work on the report. Okay, and what is it that I would want to see happen going forward? Maybe the person should do a dual check at his or her end, or maybe a prior deadline, a much earlier deadline, so that we could have a check at my end also, and we have ample time to correct the report. All right, now let's put into the four parts of the assertive statements. So it would be, when you make a report which is not error-free, it has mistakes, it has errors, and it's not been checked at your end, and it has to go to the board of directors meeting where there are so many leaders, I feel worried. There's the second part of the statement. I feel worried and I'm afraid because with this incorrect report, we may be damaging the image of our department, our team, or because basis this report, the board of directors may take a decision which could impact differently our organization or our department. So to ensure that doesn't happen, may I request next time you prepare the report, do the initial check at your end, and send me the reports at least 3 days prior to the board of directors meeting. If you can set a deadline in terms of date, please go ahead and do it. Okay. One thing that I would want to mention here, since we're talking about emotionally intelligent leaders, as a leader, it would be good if you could coach the person for the last step, which is, what would you want to see happen? So you explain all the things, which is, this is what has happened when I feel, because this is what the impact would be. Then you could get into a coaching conversation, ask the team member, how would you want to work differently on this? Or would you want to work on this in a different way next time? What would you want to do next time to ensure that this doesn't happen? So you are actually getting into a coaching conversation with your team member, rather than you telling the team member, do this, rather than you giving the team member a ready-made solution, you are eliciting the solution from the team member. This is an advice, especially to the leaders here, to the managers who are here, people managers here, that for the fourth step, which is this one, next time, please could you go into a coaching conversation and ask your team members to respond or come up with an action plan as to how do they think they could address it next time. So what we discussed was be aware of your emotions, which is what are you experiencing? Why are you experiencing? What are you experiencing? Why are you experiencing? Which is self-awareness. Name it to tame it, which is labeling your emotions so that the blood and oxygen goes back to your thinking brain and you get into a thinking mode. Okay, so there's no outburst. You're able to manage yourself. So that's where self-management comes in, which is naming it to tame it, labeling your emotions. Empathize, which is social awareness. Deal when people that you're dealing with, look at things from their perspective. Try and understand what emotions they may be feeling. Why are they feeling so? Talk to them. Encourage open two-way communication and respond assertively. Very, very important to build relationships and to strengthen the relationship. So your 4 clusters is what we have covered in bits here, which is be aware of your emotions, self-aware, name it to tame it, label the emotion to manage it, empathize, which is social awareness, and respond assertively, which will help you in building the relationships. Okay, I would say in a short form, you could also remember 3 R's: respect for self, respect for others, and responsibility for all your actions as a leader. Okay. I am done with.
Thank you, Seema. We take up some questions now.
Yeah.
All right, so let me read out the first question to you. How to control anger and
Could I,
emotion?
is it okay? I'm sorry. Is it okay if I switch off my video?
Yeah, you can put off your camera if you wish.
Atul, before we take questions, would you just brief all the participants on Zikitsa so that we can start off with the questions then?
All right, so while you write your questions in the Q&A box, let me once again tell you that this program is brought to you by Zikitsa Healthcare. Zikitsa Healthcare is one of the finest companies dealing in emergency response. So we have a fleet of 3,500 ambulances spread across the country. We are present everywhere. So if a corporate requires a fixed ambulance or an ambulance on call, Zikitsa is the place to go. Employees can benefit when you sponsor on them on a monthly basis, and they can call for an ambulance anytime, anywhere in the country. Another product that has gained a lot of popularity in recent times is telehealth. One can call a doctor on telephone and speak to the doctor and take consultation. So all that an organization has to do is to sponsor its employees on a monthly basis. There's a small monthly subscription, and telehealth facility can be availed. We have doctors and nurses on our payroll. We send these doctors and nurses to medical rooms. So Zikitsa is your one-stop solution for all your healthcare needs. So we're very happy to bring to you this seminar. Seema will now take up questions. So just put your question in the Q&A box. Seema, are you ready to take the first question?
Yes, yes.
All right. How to control anger and emotions? How to stop reacting immediately? How to overcome from long-time grief or bad experience? This is one question in 3 parts.
Okay, sure. So first thing that you need to look at is the relationship important? Who are you trying to express your anger to or express your anger on? Is that relationship important? What is the goal that you have got together? What is the goal that you have in mind for which you have got together with that person? Can you afford to spoil that relationship? If the answer is no, I cannot afford to spoil the relationship. I need this relationship for a long term to be able to accomplish the organizational goals and common goals that you have, you would get the answer that you need to control. You need to start one input that I gave you. This is what we encourage in emotional intelligence, which is labeling the emotion. Okay, and this is what neuroscience has also proved, that the moment you label the emotion, you start thinking. Okay, so in fact, I would want you to go back and think about anybody in your circle that you may be angry on, but you don't really express the anger. Why don't you do that? How are you able to manage it there in that particular relationship? It could be your seniors, it could be your spouse, it could be your kid, anybody. How is it that you're able to manage manage the anger there? How is it that you're able to manage the outburst there? Because you know that this relationship is important. You know the outcome may be completely different than what you would expect or you would want, you would desire. And then you take care of it. So you can use the same thing, same process while managing your anger with other relationships or other people as well. And one thing I certainly believe in, and I've been doing it, which is naming it to tame it, which is labeling the emotion. If you get some time, please Google it up. You would get more inputs on what are the different kinds of emotions and how well can you label it. Yeah.
All right. So the next one is how to be self-aware. How can I understand that I'm really aware of feelings?
Okay, that's a good question. You really have to the Edward, the story that I mentioned, that is actually a real life case study that we have done in emotional intelligence. And maintaining the journal. If you read this book, Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman, let me switch on my video. I hope it doesn't disturb the bandwidth. Can you see my video?
No, Seema.
Now, yes.
Yeah, if you read this book, Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman, one of the actions that he has also mentioned to be self-aware is maintaining journal. One is you need to observe yourself, which is be self-observant, and second is to maintain the it on your journal repeatedly. You should get some signals that that's where you need to work upon. That should make you aware that that is the emotion that you need to work upon.
All right. The next one is there any difference between feelings and emotions?
Okay, so emotions are let's say is what's going inside me, and feeling is what I'm feeling in terms. So let's say frustration is an emotion, worry is an emotion, and the impact of that is what I'm feeling, which is anger. In most of the cases, when I'm frustrated, I feel angry. When I'm worried, I feel angry. Okay, so the feeling would be the impact of it on me.
The next one is a very interesting question. Sometimes I've seen that people who manage their emotions are called fake. Your thoughts on that?
So initially, even if they're fake, is it helping you or the organization or the person himself? Is it helping the team? So if it is helping the team, whatever it takes, and as someone said that it's really difficult to, we need practice to do it. So I would say, especially in emotional intelligence, fake it to you till the time you actually perfect it. It's fine. And how can you fake emotional intelligence? I would really be interested to understand that. Atul, I don't know. I mean, maybe this person can connect with me. I'll share my coordinates. But I would be really keen, this would help me in my own research. I would be really keen in understanding how can you fake emotional intelligence, because it's either you outburst your emotion, you outburst what you're feeling, or you take control of it and manage it and then communicate it. So I would be keen on knowing how is it that you can fake emotional intelligence. So whoever it is, please connect with me. That's going to be a help to me in my own furthering my knowledge on EI.
Seema, I just want to, butt in here. There's a very interesting statement which says how to handle people who avoid communication at all costs. And, of course, I run 2 companies. I think one thing which has helped is writing to them instead of talking to them. And that has helped me personally. I don't know, Seema, your views on that.
Well, Shweta, and that's an interesting question. Shweta, I would say any communication, if the person is avoiding, it's important to mention what's in it for that person. The moment you mention what's in it for that person, and if the person is not ready to communicate, also in terms of negative impact. So one is positive way, what's in it for that person, and what could be the outcome of it, which may not be very pleasant. Communicating in both the terms, I think, should help.
All right.
If not, people do make choices. In fact, this is the time when I would want to mention that when people are aware of their emotions, they know that this is what I'm experiencing, and they have a choice of managing it, which is ensuring that they communicate it assertively, or they have a choice of just telling it out, just bursting it out without any filter. Now that's the choice that you make. Again, be ready to face the outcome, the repercussions of it. So again, we may talk about emotional intelligence, we may talk about all kinds of intelligence, but ultimately it's the choice that the person has to make. I may decide I don't want to be emotionally intelligent. I want to burst out on people. I want to be incivilized. I want to just tell them what emotions, what feelings am I experiencing. I just want to blur it out the way I am experiencing. But that's the choice. Again, it depends on if you're ready to face the repercussions, the outcome. If you are, God bless you. Yeah.
Right. This question is very interesting. Are women more emotionally intelligent than men? Women are intelligent anyway, I think more intelligent. So, what do you have to say, Seema?
I kind of like that. And thank you for that, Atul. Women are intelligent. I would say we have to remember that EI is a range of abilities. Like you said, self-awareness, emotional self-management, empathy, social skills. Women tend to be better than men on an average at empathy, particularly emotional empathy, which is like sensing in the moment how the other person is feeling, and also at social skills, keeping things, feeling good between people in a group. Men, on the other hand, tend to be better on an average at self-confidence, particularly in groups, and at managing distressing emotions. But Atul, what is very interesting is if you look at leaders who are in top 10%, there's no difference between men and a woman on any of those variables. So in other words, you have a whole human being. So I would say on an average, there probably are differences between men and women in this domain, in this domain of abilities. But as people develop their skills, as they become effective, they pick up strengths in the areas they need.
This question is related to children. How can we bring EI into school curriculum? Everybody speaks of holistic development of students, but not much is done in schools for EI. Can children really be taught emotional intelligence?
In fact, that's the best age to introduce emotional intelligence. There have been researches done in the US. They've seen changes in children at very early early age: self-awareness, self-management, empathy. Schools which had programs where such programs, EI programs, all antisocial behaviors like disliking schools, disruption in classes, it went down by 10%. And pro-school behavior like liking schools, well behaved, it increased by 10%, and even academic scores increased by 11%. So it actually pays. It helps manage your emotions. It helps pay attention. In fact, we would even say that it's an approach that school should, we should put it in school curriculum. It should be mandatory. You know, it would raise more competent, secure, and happy children. At this point, I would also want to mention in 2018, we did an EI summit, which was under the banner of FEIL, which is Forum of Emotional Intelligence Learning, where we did this in TIS, where we invited entries from all the schools, you know, and they were so competing that we had to ultimately give away to most of the schools that participated. People are nowadays, especially in schools today, they are taking initiatives like having counselors, having a buddy program where the kids work with each other, trying to understand each other better. So those, some of the initiatives have already been taken, and I'm telling you out of experience, which I had in 2018 when we conducted EI Summit for schools, that most of the schools got this award. So yes, that's the best age to introduce emotional intelligence.
There's a question which says emotional intelligence is an innate quality or you can be trained in it. But can we control the emotions of others?
Okay. So there are two questions. Can EI be taught, and can we control the emotions of others? Is it?
Yeah, no. The person saying yes, it can be taught. You know, in that he acknowledges you can train on it. But what he is basically wanting to know is, can we control the emotions of others?
Okay. So great. I also agree with you that emotional intelligence can be taught. There have been clear and focused research that supports the fact. Okay. Can you control others' emotions? Okay. You can understand the emotions, which is through the social awareness, by empathizing with people, by looking at things from others' perspective, and thus you can influence it. You can't really control, but you can certainly influence, and that's one of the competencies that we saw in relationship management as well. After you're aware of people who are working with, which is empathizing with them, communicating with them, looking at things from their perspective, encourage two-way communication, and using that information to communicate with them in a way assertively, so that it influences their emotions and thus the behavior. So you can't really control others' emotions as such, but you certainly can influence it.
All right. How to handle when the other person does not empathize and is dead bound to prove that he or she is right? And there's another question which is related: is how to tame a bullying coworker or a bullying boss?
Okay, so could I club the questions, because in both the cases it's the same thing.
Yeah, that's why I read both the questions out.
Yeah. So I think, how do you empathize with a non-cooperative colleague? It would be primarily, again, I would say, look at the outcome of it. You know, make the other person understand how that behavior is impacting you and him and the department as such. And how is that behavior impacting the outcome of the department, his deliverables, your deliverables, and thus the departmental deliverables.
All right. So given the current situation, Seema, this COVID and all of that,
Person to have.
how would emotional intelligence help? This is something I think everybody wants to know. We can't hear you.
Could you please repeat what you said?
In this current situation, how would emotional intelligence help? this current situation of COVID, working from home, stress? We can't hear you, Seema. Are you there?
Yeah, I am there, but all
Now
of
we
us,
can hear you. Go ahead.
I could not hear you, and I don't know. With 1 second.
So the question is that given the current situation, how would EI help?
Okay. Did I miss out on any other question? Last we spoke about how do we deal with non-cooperative
Yes,
colleague.
after that, given the current situation, how would EI help?
Okay. Given the current situation, which is COVID times, I think it's the most critical in these times because the need to build relationship, engage employees is the highest. Okay, we need to get the work done without supervising. Right, so there are employees who are putting in extra hours than the regular time. So we really need to appreciate them and also ensure they stay committed. They feel valued, they feel included, they feel involved, they feel accountable. We need to be empathetic towards each one of them. So it's not easy, but it's important, very important in today's environment and time. So to that question, I think EI was never so important. It is very important in COVID times when people are working from their home. They have become their own leader. They are managing themselves. So to be able to engage employees, to be able to build relationship, to be able to connect, stay connected with them, and also ensure that they are engaged and stay connected with you, it's important. It's very important.
Okay, I'll just take last three questions. One, how can anger affect the neurological balance of your body? What are the telltale signs of anger affecting your health?
Okay, so when we looked at the amygdala going high, we looked at the physiological signs of anxiety, right? High heartbeat, high BP, there were muscle pulls. Imagine if this happens on a regular basis. So if it happens on a regular basis, you could imagine what kind of effect it would have on your body. There is no rocket science in imagining that, right? So to ensure that it doesn't happen, we really have to take control.
All right, this participant thinks that feelings have to be outburst somewhere. So if you are being emotionally intelligent with your boss, you'll probably go home and pour it on your spouse.
Okay. So when you are talking about outbursting the feelings, why do you have to outburst? The moment your feeling brain is active, you think there has to be an outburst. The moment it goes deactive, there's no need for you to feel that, right? The there's no feeling as such because you've started thinking as to how will it impact the relationship. And when you are saying that outburst, I would say when you're communicating to people, you are actually communicating to them about what you are feeling, not the emotion as such. You're not communicating the feeling as such, but in the message you're telling them about what you're feeling. So the message is already sent across, and the impact of the message which you now follow through the assertive communication would be much better than venting out or bursting out. So to that question, I would say you would not feel the need of bursting out the moment you take control of your feeling brain by reducing the oxygen and blood there and passing on that blood and oxygen to your thinking brain.
All right, so one last question because we are already, I think, ahead of time. Um, this is what is a good example of emotional intelligence in work culture? How does it reflect in work culture?
Okay. So I would say that people would not
Oh, there is a problem in the, we cannot hear
in
you.
expressing their. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now. Yeah, go ahead. No, there's, no, it's not coming. We cannot hear you. I think you put the camera off and we'll be able to hear you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So the question was the culture part. How do you know that it's an emotionally intelligent culture?
Yeah, good example
Uh,
of AI in culture, work culture.
okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Better. Okay. I think a workplace where people feel confident in speaking their minds, exchanging views, and expressing their emotions is demonstrative of an emotionally intelligent culture. Okay. Uh, so when I am welcome a culture where people are not scared to express their point. Imagine a situation where emotions, thoughts, and opinions remain bottled up. That will be like a ticking time bomb. All right. So a workplace where people are confident in speaking up their mind, in exchanging views, expressing their emotions, is demonstrative of emotional intelligence. So all the employees have bad days, they have bad moods. Okay, an environment, a culture where people are able to talk about that bad mood without getting impacted negatively would be a demonstration of a good culture. People listen to each other in meetings. People express themselves openly. Most of the change initiatives where people are flexible and committed. People have freedom to be creative. They meet out of work time. So that's, I think those all put together would be demonstrative of a good work culture and emotionally intelligent work culture.
All right. Thank you, Seema. Thank you for this wonderful program today. I would like to thank the participants who've taken time off and uh, posed some really interesting questions. With a promise that we will come back with more of such interesting webinars. We will sign off now. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.